All right, the race to the Flash continues as we talk about Batman Returns, Michael Keaton's final outing as Batman, till the new movie, of course. So, Batman Returns is a 1992 film, the sequel to 1989's Batman, starring Michael Keaton, directed by Tim Burton. And, as a Batman fan, this is a film that's divided a lot of Batman fans. And for me personally, I see this as a film that is more of a Tim Burton movie than it is a Batman movie. And per usual, with all these retro reviews, we're going to give a quick little synopsis for those of you who aren't familiar with the movie. And why wouldn't you be? I mean, this movie's been around for 30 years. But if you're not familiar with it, we'll give you a synopsis and let you go about your merry way. See if you want to check this out. For those of you who are familiar with the story, stick around. We're going to go into this film and all sorts of spoilery goodness, and we're going to cover a lot of things and my thoughts on this film. So basically, the plot here is Batman has to take on the Penguin and Catwoman in order to stop some Christmas shenanigans going on, thanks to the Penguin and a scheme he's cooked up to get revenge on the people of Gotham. And that's essentially your plot. And so if you don't want to go any further and get spoiled, stop right here and come back when you've seen the film. But all right, so like I said, this movie is so weird. It is a Tim Burton movie, first and foremost. I mean, just from the get-go, the aesthetic, the kind of weird, creepy, extra gothiciness he adds to this film is just, it gets bizarre at times. Like, I mean, just from the opening, you get Pee Wee Herman as the Penguin's dad, and you get that whole opening with the Penguin setting him up, and it's so weird. This isn't really my favorite version of the Penguin, though I do think Danny DeVito knocks this role out of the park. The weird mutant angle of the Penguin just isn't my favorite. It's, but in the context of this film, we'll deal with that. So from the beginning, Burton really lays on this new extra gothic-y version of a Batman story, which is more of a Penguin story and a Catwoman story, to be honest with you. Batman's kind of third fiddle. Shoot, fourth fiddle if you include Christopher Walken's Max Schreck in this. I mean, Batman takes a back seat to this movie. I mean, he took a little bit of a back seat to Joker in the last one, but at least it was kind of almost 50-50. This one, man, I feel like Batman's barely in it. And as a kid, I never really thought of it or looked at it that way. And, I grew up with this film. And so it's not until you're older you finally see, like, oh, yeah, Batman's barely in this. This is barely a Batman movie. There's Batman things in it, but he's barely in it. Because, we're dealing with the Penguin and his story and him trying to figure out who his parents are, while at the same time out for revenge on the people of Gotham, with his whole plot to kidnap the firstborn son of all these families. And then on the other side, you have Catwoman, who's or Selena Kyle, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, who is awesome in this. And again, the way they kind of bring this Catwoman in is a little more out there. Like, there's the scene where she falls, gets pushed out of the window by Max Schreck, and she gets revived by a bunch of cats. And it wasn't until my latest viewing of this that I figured, or I kind of see it now as like more of a metaphor, as opposed to, like, as a kid, I'm like, wow, like all those cats licked this lady and she came back to life. How weird. I almost saw it this time as more of a metaphor for her, as part of her psyche, and all those cats are in her head, bringing her back to life. But they actually might be. Somebody tell me in the comments what you think, because I think now that that's all in her head, but I also could see where it's like, nope, just a bunch of random cats showed up and kind of brought her back to life, and there's part of the weirdness to this film. Just so weird. But I like when she snaps. She just snaps, she busts her apartment apart. There's the great shot of her after she's broken her sign, and she's, her silhouette's in the window, and it says "Hell Here." It, is a great iconic shot, I think, from this movie. And then Christopher Walken, I think is a fun kind of third tier bad guy. He's kind of the one trying to pull the strings with the Penguin, but Penguin's kind of on him. Penguin's kind of got some stuff on him. And Shrek's also kind of got it out for Selena Kyle. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on here. He's such a weird but fun presence in this movie. And then, of course, come on, let's talk about Michael Keaton. I mean, I'm very excited for him to come back in The Flash. But the fact that this was his last Batman movie is kind of sad. I mean, he is good in this movie. I think Michael Keaton is a good Batman, is a good Bruce Wayne, and albeit a little bit flawed, the character, and his portrayal is great. I love Michael Keaton, and it is kind of sad that this was his last outing as Batman. But he plays a pretty psychotic Batman. Let's not beat around the bush here. This Batman that Michael Keaton plays is a straight up murderer. He just, flamethrowing people with a Batmobile to just, at one point, shoving a bomb down somebody's pants, punching him down into a sewer or whatever, and the dude blows up. I mean, it's just, as a kid, I'm just like, cool, Batman defeated the bad guy, but Batman just straight up murders people in this version of him, which is weird. But man, when you go from being a kid to an adult and you realize this, you gotta really, you might have to go to therapy for some of this. It's just so weird. Like I said, this movie's just full of weird choices, a lot of weird stuff, and especially being an adult now, looking back on when I would watch this movie as a kid, after Batman, then Batman Returns, and as these movies progressively got more silly, but like the silly factor in this was amped up for me on this viewing. I guess I've never just realized just how completely weird and bonkers and oddly dark and sexual this gets at points. I guess that just fly over your head as a kid, and I don't know, like, I didn't have a bad time watching it, but I also didn't have a great time watching it because it was all over the place. It felt unfocused at times. It just didn't really hit my Batman sensibilities, and I'm not trying to let that hinder my grade or how I trying to objectively look at this film as a film. I will just say, like, as a Batman film, this, it's a weird kind of Elseworld is not really a Batman story to me, to be honest with you. It's a Penguin Catwoman story, which is fine. I'm just not in love with the versions they kind of went with, even though I think all the performances are great. I think Michelle Pfeiffer kills it, DeVito kills it, Keaton kills it. Everybody does great in this film. Danny Elfman brought his A game, though. The music in this is probably the best part. I just think it's great that it's such a good score to this film. It just is awesome. Oh, one of my favorite scenes in this movie, though, as I will always love to see it as a kid, is the opening Batman showing up. It is weird, though, that he's got a thing outside his house that reflects the bat signal into his office. Very weird, but kind of cool. But then, he goes into town, and I just love that fight. For whatever reason, the coolest bad guy in this film is actually the motorcycle riders with the skulls and the weird eyes. I don't know why. I just thought they were the coolest bad guys. And then Batman just kind of punching one is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. And that Batmobile obviously is a star in this. What else? There's a scene, though, where Max Schreck, and his plan is to get, because Max Schreck wants a power plant, but the mayor won't help him out because the power plant's really more of a power, like, sucker, and they want to store power and obviously use that to kind of make money against Gotham, or make money, whatever. But the mayor's stopping him from building this power plant, so his plan is to install this crime boss in the Penguin as a new mayor, even though the election's already happened, which... okay, I guess if there was no faith in the previous mayor that you just elected, you could replace him, but with a dude from the sewers who literally showed up at the beginning of the week, and in the middle of the week you're trying to turn him into a mayoral candidate, which apparently everybody's behind, which is weird enough as it is. But, the Penguin's up in his office, whatever, his apartment thing, it's weird. He's, like, up there with his gang. He's, like, working on his plan, and Shrek comes up there with a fish and lures him downstairs, and they got their whole mayoral staff ready to go for the election. And my first thought this time around was, did they not hear, like, chairs and tables getting moved around, or people coming in to work in this office space? The Penguin was just up there, and his whole gang's there, and none of them heard it. I just think that's so very weird. And then that whole scene's weird, just in general. The Penguin biting a dude's nose off is just unsettling as a kid. That was probably the scariest scene in the whole movie to me as a kid. Yeah, this film is something else. I mean, I like the aesthetic of being set at Christmas. At points, I think the extra gothic-y nature of this film is actually a lot of fun, but it's just not a Batman story, so it just didn't fully work for me. But I think as a film, like as a movie, I could see people having a good time with it. It's just, It's not terrible, but it's not great. So in the end of the day, I'm gonna give this film a B minus. So yeah, like I said, when this movie is done, the last scene of Michael Keaton as Batman is him picking up a cat and getting in a car. Like that's the last scene of Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, as Batman in this film. Like that's the last time we've seen him. And now with him coming into the Flash, what happened between then and now? There's a lot of weird speculation I have. Like, is Selena Kyle gonna show up? I think she's gonna show up in the new movie. I have no idea. I've looked at no spoiler. I am completely spoiler free before I go into that movie. So I'm hoping Selena Kyle or Michelle Pfeiffer, shows up. I think that'd be pretty cool. But anyway, what do you guys think? Have you seen Batman Returns? What are your thoughts on Batman Returns? Are you excited for Michael Keaton to return as Batman? Leave all those down in the comments below. And if you guys could please leave a like, subscribe, hit that little bell notification to be notified whenever I drop new videos. And yeah, my Flash review is coming. I'm jamming all these reviews in a short time frame right now. I'm very excited to go see this Flash movie, but I also got one more movie coming. One more retro review coming before the Flash film. Fingers crossed. Hopefully I get it done in time. And it's going to be Man of Steel. Man of Steel is going to tie in somehow to the Flash, and I just wanted to rewatch that, and that video should be coming up shortly after this one goes up, hopefully, and before the Flash movie comes out. And it's going to be tight. But until the next review, guys, I'll be seeing you.